Every organization and employer knows that they are required to meet the legal standards for labor compliance in their jurisdiction. However, too many believe that simply meeting the basic compliance is enough. But in today's workforce, good enough just isn't good enough. There's a mistaken belief that if an organization is complying with legal standards, then they are providing a good enough experience for the employee to give them their best work. The reality is that employees expect more. Just meeting the absolute minimum of basic compliance is failing the workforce. Some industries have gone out of their way to lift the minimum threshold from legal compliance to create their own standard. Sectors like finance, legal, high tech, and engineering are just a few well known for having industry standards that exceed basic labor compliance. These higher standards are helpful for raising the bar for everyone. But what really makes a difference is less about where the minimum bar is and more about how willing each business is to surpass the bar. When the collective view is to only meet the minimum, this is what creates many of the workforce issues we see every day. High turnover rates, increasing mental health challenges, talent migration, and low innovation. Creating workplaces that go beyond compliance is not only good for employees, but it is great for businesses. This is the reality of today's workforce. Workers have expectations of what employers need to provide in the work environment. Broadly, these expectations fit into three categories. The first is about being competitive. Are the factors, conditions, and environment at the job competitive with other workplaces, either in their industry or in their geographic region? Is this workplace at least on par with other similar workplaces? Second is about being sufficient. Are the factors, conditions, and environment at their job sufficient to meet their needs? Does what this workplace have to offer sufficiently meet employees' needs and requirements? Third is about being equitable. Are the factors, conditions, and environment at the job equitably accessible to everyone? Is there a sense of fairness between all staff, including between workers and management? Let's look at these three expectations a little closer with a few examples around wages. First, we have Widgets and Digits, a production facility that makes analog clock parts and numbers. They are one of a number of production facilities in their region and have a larger problem with turnover and absenteeism than many of the other plants in the area. One factor that's likely contributing to their issue is their wages. They pay their workers minimum wage, where many other comparable businesses pay $3 to $4 more an hour. Widgets and Digits is forced to deal with a lot of job dissatisfaction because their wages are not meeting the expectations of competitive and sufficient. They are paying less than their peers and not enough for people to practically live on. They are, however, equitable, as everyone is largely paid the same. Next, let's look at a box store called Try and Save. They pay 50 cents more than minimum wage for most of their frontline positions, a little more than most retail companies in their area. However, their managers make almost 5 times as much as their employees. Try and Save deals with a lot of job dissatisfaction because their wages are not meeting the expectations of sufficient and equitable. They aren't high enough for most people to live off, and there's a large disparity between managers and most of the other staff. The wages are competitive, however, because most other retail companies in their area pay frontline workers only minimum wage. Last is Something to Whine About bottling plant. They often hire contract labor during peak seasons to meet their quotas. The bottling plant's employees are pretty well paid, especially for the region, but the contract employees make $2 to $3 more an hour for doing the same work because of the temporary nature of their contracts. Something to Whine About deals with job dissatisfaction from their employees because their wages are not meeting the expectations of being equitable. They are working side by side with people who are making significantly more than they are for doing the exact same work. The wages are competitive and sufficient because the bottling plant employees are paid well, especially for their area. These are just a few quick examples to highlight the importance of the three expectations. And these three expectations are the foundation of what we call the 7x3 rule and your key to creating an appealing workplace. But we're going to get into that in a later video. For now, it's important to remember that employers may not be looking at the factors and conditions of their workplace through the lens of the three expectations. However, this is exactly what your current and existing workforce is expecting from you.